Fix errors, waste, and issues in a couple of clicks. Get alerted whenever you're off track. Sign up at trueclicks.com.
Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises to manage clients and projects with max efficiency, sharing Wix's SEO tech to help you drive growth.
Hello, good afternoon. Also, because I've had this question a couple of times now, that is a real photo. I missed my hair. The TLDR is, got engaged, pre-wedding photo shoot, consistently for 2 weeks. You're having a haircut, right? Yeah, haircut. It's growing back, don't worry. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about AI, SGE, helpful content, but I'm not going to be delving into that too much. I more want to speak about something else I've seen really over the last year across a plethora of clients. That's actually communicating how scared a lot of us as SEOs are around what's happening with AI and actually making clients and non-marketing stakeholders understand what is happening. And that kind of transcends to a lot of what we've done throughout our entire careers, because the harsh truth of what we do is that oftentimes with most campaigns, we can do really good things. I also have that candy slide as well, I forget about all the time. All these slides and everything else, by the way, is actually on that link there, which you can download off. And yeah, I work with people, like everyone has. Most campaigns, we can oftentimes deliver really great results. So we can deliver to brief, we can hit KPIs. But if there's actually no understanding across the business, or there's no understanding with certain elements of C-level, other stakeholders within that and other teams, we can often fall short because that understanding just isn't there. But because of that, we are typically engaged with, as SEOs, as marketers, in very different ways. And the understanding of why we're there as a vendor will vary. I've had CFOs think we're just there to do traffic. I've had CMOs even think we're just focusing on 10 keywords, whereas the actual remit of who we're working with is very different. But that also goes into actually how we communicate with those people, because that understanding of why we've been engaged with is important. Because let's be honest, no company in the history of the world has ever woken up one morning and gone, "Ooh, I want an SEO retainer," or an SEO project. So we're not an impulse purchase. We're either seen as an investment, so that is effectively grow things. We're an expertise steady on, in that we're about to do something like a migration or something else. We want some expertise to help us not break things. Or we're a duress purchase, which is we weren't involved in that one and now they've broken it, so we need to go and fix the things. Depending on that engagement, it will very much determine who from the company or who from the client is engaged, what their expectations are. But regardless of what either of those three engagements are, or if in a freak event we are an impulse purchase, we're there to try and make the world better for them. And that goes down to how we communicate, not just with our main point of contact or our champion within a business, but how we actually do that across. So it's what do people need to know, who needs to know it, and how importantly is aware of everyone that are actually doing stuff. So this is like, we can be working with a marketing team that is product aware. We can be working with a marketing team, is the brand team aware, internal PR teams. And this is quite hard because in most organizations, people who can be aware of SEO or marketing as a channel is massively varied. I just pulled this list together, I think, from 2 of our Basecamp projects, who's on it. And the level of interest that these people have will vary greatly. So for example, Group Chief Financial Officer, who is one of the point of contacts to work in North America, he probably cares once every 6 months, but whatever he says will trump 90% of that board. So it's understanding what information they get. So rather than trying to actually tackle the entire board and exactly what is happening on the client side, it's understanding how the client works and how that moves forward. So how do they meet internally? Do our reports get shared? What is their internal cadence schedule? Are they meeting monthly themselves? Do they have a meeting before ours, after ours? Understanding that can actually help us influence then what information is being passed around. Coupled with that is the document transfer. Our monthly reports, bi-weekly reports, is access to the keyword tracking tool. Is that shared with other teams? What are those other teams interested in? But then ultimately, how can we then understand that and start to tweak and add to our existing processes just to subtly create that value across the rest of that team, without directly making it too obvious and too brown-nosy and working in that way. So the first key element of this P&L is awareness. So tie this back to SGE, AI, helpful content, and whatever Google's obsession with Reddit is now, everything like that. How aware is it actually of the business of what's happening now? Obviously, AI is the hot topic. Just under a year ago, we obviously have a breakout of SGE IO. Most businesses I speak to, I may talk about AI at a conference at the start of this year. This is generally how the conversation has been. And most stakeholders who sign contracts, who sign checks, who are business holders, they still think ChatGPT is AI. They think all they have to worry about is the content. The fact that SGE is around the corner, they're completely blindsided by. It's almost like it's the Diplodocus eating the leaf, worrying that the leaf is the last one, but there's a meteor going overhead. They're not looking in the right direction. But being aware only matters if then they actually understand the impact of it, because it ties back to what the so what is. Most C-level probably will be aware of SGE and all the other AI rollouts, but it's the so what. How can we actually then start to easily and consistently communicate the impact of things like this to stakeholders in a way which doesn't tie us to metrics, doesn't tie us to basically finger in the air nonsense which we can't quantify. So 3 basic hypotheses of anything with impact is the standard. There'll be no significant impact to what's about to happen to us. There'll be, sorry, my voice is also gone. I had an early night last night as well and it's still not worked. There'll be a minor impact on the business, or there'll be a significant impact. And the best way I've actually found to visually show this to clients is I dug around on the internet trying to look at risk models and things like that. And I actually found that NASA have a model which they regularly update when every time they see a meteor or an asteroid enter our galaxy, they assess how likely it is to hit the Earth, and if it does, how big it will be. And they call that a Torino scale. So modifying that to work for a website, we actually get a similar thing. So we can actually have the impact scale. So will it be cataclysmic, the whole domain's going down, or there'll be no consequences, but also probability of it impacting. So for example, the asteroid will wipe out the dinosaurs, there, something where it just skims past Pluto, there. So we can actually start to then use this as a translation for Google's AI features. Now, this will differ across different companies and also how vital different elements are. So if you're a retail brand and you've got the circle search on your radar, how impactful will this be to you as a business? How impactful that will be to KPIs, the metrics and the goals from the organic channel, your channel? Well, realistically, it'll probably have page level consequences and we don't really know. So let's stick it in 1, because we're not sure. There's likely not going to be no consequence, but there is going to be some. So therefore the business can look at that and go, okay, we expect a ripple, we're aware of it, that's fine. But then if you're saying the same e-commerce business, and you start looking at what Google's doing in the US now, with the filterable searches across the side, SGE taking up a whole spot, and then the pills, that's a lot more impactful. And you can actually start to map this with different elements so that businesses can actually then understand it. And it also then stops C-level and non-marketing stakeholders going down the rabbit holes of focusing on the shiny thing, which is circle search, and not the actual impactful thing, SGE, which is, I mean, I thought as a 5 or 9, it could be a 7 or 10, really. It really depends. So the second side to that, and actually adding to it, is context. So now they're aware, how can we actually apply it to the world they care about? And that comes down to 2 elements. It's the understanding of magnitude and implications, but then also how that helps shape their perception of what that risk is going to be and how that will impact short, medium and long term across the board. So contextual risk is a key element that we need to start applying into these things. So it's kind of a principle around risk management as well as business modifications, but essentially a good example would be, so a travel company may not directly be able to control political changes in a destination they cater for. About 12 years ago, I worked with a travel company that specifically offered tours for the Silk Road and Silk Road countries. Needless to say, there was a slight period of political unrest and they were unable to offer anything. So therefore, people also stopped searching for it and they couldn't understand why traffic had dropped. Because they thought, well, yet people can't travel, but people should still be searching for it. And the answer is, well, people read newspapers, they look at the news, they're not going to search for somewhere where they're not going to be able to travel to. Now, we can't directly control this, but they inevitably affect consumer demand. They affect the consumer operations. We've seen it post-COVID with all supply chain issues in vehicle parts, supply chain issues in new cars for the leasing market, not in the direct company's control, but they have a direct impact on user behaviour, consumer behaviour, and translating that across. Now, the easiest way to try and assess this and train this down for a business is to effectively perform a mini pestle analysis across that market. Now, this is a very old kind of business analysis term, and it takes the non-contextual and adds context for businesses in this way. So for anyone who doesn't know what a pestle is, it's essentially 6 elements. It's political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental factors. These can apply differently across different businesses, and not all being in play at the same time. For example, I've got a client in the tobacco space who had a bit of a turbulent first half of the year with the UK legislation coming out. So when we look at things like this, obviously with the government's march on vaping and also the new smoking bans coming into place to eradicate that, which I think is good, but we need to actually then understand this ourselves and apply this to how this affects strategies. So the legal implications of this, long-term, how will this impact market viability? If we're reducing the number of new consumers entering the market, there will come a cut-off point where the market does not have enough demand to meet supply elements. That ties into the economic one, because there has to be a certain level of demand for businesses to be making a certain level of purchase, for suppliers to find it worthwhile in that market, for upping prices, and it becomes cost inhibitive. And then also as the social side of it, this brings it all to the forefront. How many people will opt out before it becomes legislation? But ultimately, how does this affect demand? How does this then impact our strategy moving forward? And not necessarily just across SEO, but if that impacts everything outside of our control, this data and this analysis can then be used across other channels, especially if there's societal shift or economic shift elements in that way. The easiest way to explain this to stakeholders, rather than kind of giving them a big reams of text, is usually just one slide, something called a 4-box. So this essentially can be tailored to anything or any business, but all it really usually consists of is a simple rag. So red, amber, green. I've just filled this for just an example, e-commerce rubbish, just to make it not lorem ipsum, being honest. But essentially it gives them an idea on some key active projects, so they feel involved, they feel informed, they feel like they understand what is happening. You can share some basic recent progress. So again, they feel involved, they know what's happening, they know things are moving along. Upcoming focuses, and also that ties in with the potential risks and issues. They can actually not necessarily understand what the risk is itself or the issue, but they can be aware that it's at least on the radar. And it also creates that paper trail. So this circulated across the business, understanding what and how your internal stakeholders, the client actually manages it and transfers documents, can actually really help and leverage this across. So my kind of final slide I wanted to go over, especially when you do this kind of stakeholder mapping, and I've not gone into stakeholder mapping too much because it's just so complex across different business types, and especially post-COVID with the amount of remote work, remote teams transferring across others. You basically just need with that to actually sit down, do that mapping, and then start to understand those relations between your actual client and stakeholders. So the main mistakes I see people doing this is they generally just miss stakeholders, or they omit stakeholders. So one of my clients, they got bought by eBay about a year and a half ago. The eBay group CFO for North America looks across our reports every quarter. We didn't know until the second one we sent across, but now understanding they do that, we've made the revenue charts a lot bigger, understanding what the actual market is. So it's not necessarily the missing, but don't take anything for granted. Actually make sure you qualify or disqualify them on fact. Again, you can target too many stakeholders, and this is something I see a lot of people fall into. Yes, there'll be a lot of people this report can do, but if you dilute it or overinflate it to that point, it says so much about saying anything at all, and it ultimately just gets lost in noise. And then also targeting the wrong ones. So again, whether or not you're making assumptions, omitting them, you need a proper qualification, disqualification process, and understanding what they're need is and what their desires are in what your activities are. So I hope that has been helpful. Like I said, all these slides will be available on that link. And that's also got some more information and reading as well, what I based this on. But yeah, thank you very much.
Demand sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.